Can you ever forgive me again? I'm Alvin King, and this is We Speak. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to We Speak. A few episodes back, our featured topic was on forgiveness. We received a lot of feedback, so we thought that we would continue the conversation. Prior to that taping that particular day, our executive producer, Tony Wesley, and I had a conversation with the two young ladies seated next to me. Each gave their insight on how they felt about the topic of forgiveness. So Tony thought it would be a great idea to get our viewers in the studio and to share their opinions to discuss this issue more in depth. Please welcome Miss Joanne Inwezor and Miss Jasmine White. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Please, no, my pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't wait. But before we get into our conversation, I need to ask for forgiveness from Miss Jasmine White.
Uh-oh.
Jasmine actually was one of our featured guests when we discussed the legalization of marijuana in the District of Columbia. But when that show aired, unfortunately, Jasmine, your name was misspelled. So on behalf of Tony, who also edits and spell checks our shows, I want to extend our apology to you. So again, thank you for being here.
Apology accepted. You are forgiven.
Thank you. So we're going to jump right into the conversation because you guys are so great. It has been said that the act of forgiveness is giving up on the hope that story will change. So ladies, what is forgiveness to you?
For me, forgiveness is the opportunity to free myself of any perceived hurt or transgression that someone has done toward me. And I feel like even though it is something that involves the action of someone else, that it is important for me to forgive so I don't have to carry that pain. And so even if I don't tell them that I forgive them, and it might not be immediate, it is something that I know that I have to do for myself just to free myself of that toxic energy.
I see.
Yeah, I would agree. It's about detachment, right? It's detaching yourself from expectations, detaching yourself from results, it's detaching yourself from just basically the entire situation so that you can heal.
Well, I also feel like when I'm in that situation where I don't forgive, I'm giving someone else that power, and I think that's what I'm hearing both of you, giving them that power to keep me where I am when I know I should, again, free myself from where I am.
Right.
And so I have a problem with giving people that power.
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And then if you see someone who has done something to you and you see them in the future and then you get upset about it again, they're not even thinking about you. Exactly. They've already won. So it's important for you to get your victory as well so that you can be as free as they are when they're, carrying on with their lives or having other friendships and relationships, and so that you can be free too.
And you're stuck.
Easier said than done, right? Though?
Right. That is true. That's
Easier said than done. I mean,
but do you believe in forgiveness, or do you feel that it gives people the permission to hurt you again?
that's a really good question.
I think forgiving a person doesn't really give them permission to hurt you again, because now that they have hurt you, you have information. And so now you are armed with information that you did not have before, and so you should act accordingly. And so if the reason they were able to hurt you or steal from you or abuse your trust is because you let your guard down and you let them within a certain space, now you know that this person has to stay outside of the circle of trust, right? And so you have to conduct yourself accordingly, because you cannot control the actions of other people, and they will remain the same. They are a person who hurts people or who steals. So you can't ever think that you can control other people. You can only control your own actions. So the way that you interact with them should change, but forgiveness doesn't mean that you forget.
And I mean, that information is, you know, a two-way street too, because sometimes people hurt you and they don't even know it. So you're providing them with information in the process of forgiveness. Like, what you did was hurtful, and it doesn't have to be something as egregious as stealing or abuse. It could be something that they said that hurt your feelings, that brought up past issues. And so I think that's information is really like a two-way street. Now you're giving them information not to do that again. I'm going to let you slide, but
you've been warned.
You've been warned, right?
Well, and to that personally, I went back to school later in life. I'm in school right now, and often when I'm talking to people and letting them know that I'm in school, every now and then someone will say something like, "Well, if you had done it when you were younger," and I have to look at them because I get offended by that.
Yes.
So going to the or going on what you said, that some people don't know what they don't know,
Right.
and they will hurt you or say hurtful things to you, and you have to find a way to get out of that so you can forgive them and tell them, you made a mistake.
Right.
Don't say that to me again.
Right. And then if it happens again, then now you know something
Now
else.
you know
Right.
that something's not right.
Right.
Exactly. Okay. Do you believe in forgiveness or no? Let me phrase that a different way. Under what circumstances could you forgive an act of domestic violence committed against you?
Under what circumstances?
Yes.
I think all circumstances. That's what forgiveness is it doesn't really necessarily pick and choose what is forgivable and what's not forgivable. It's really just an act that is kind of universal. And so no matter what the domestic violence is, it could be emotional, it could be physical, it could be, what are the other forms of?
Well, you said emotional, verbal, physical,
right.
mental.
Mental, all of those things is just really, it's really about you freeing yourself from, from whatever that action was. It's about freedom. It's your personal freedom. That's what I think forgiveness is. Like we said earlier, it's just about detachment. And then also it's information, making sure that you don't make the same mistakes again, too.
Well, how much does your religion or spirituality, I'm going to say religion or spirituality, play in the art of forgiveness for you?
I would say it is probably the most important aspect of spirituality for me, because spirituality for me is about becoming a better person, feeling free, living a good life, and not carrying those types of things and negative energy around with me. So I think, to answer the question that you asked before, one of the circumstances for me would be time, because I need time to heal. And no matter what the issue was, whether it's a physical act or whether it's mental, like, there has to be some time for me to heal and for me to process the information, what really happened, right? So, and then also reality versus my own reality. What actually happened to me and what do I think this person has done to me? Because sometimes those are different things. We'll tell a person, like, you don't love me, you don't care about me. Like, that might not necessarily be reality, but that's my perception because of something that has happened. And I have to sort through all of those emotions before I can start to have the conversation about forgiveness. And that's usually something that just happens alone. And that's the spiritual piece, like through meditation or whether I have to write things. But I really have to flesh out all of the things that happened and say, okay, these are the real facts. This person did this thing, and this is what I need to do to move past it.
Right, I agree with Jasmine. It's really about time and how, and whatever tools you use to be able to heal in that process. Journaling is, one of my saving graces, and I'll have journals dedicated to an entire situation, like you did, and then this next time, and then, you know what I mean? So, but it's about just really healing. And then also, I'm like self-help. I will read any type of self-help book. And so that's one of the ways that I transform.
Okay. Well, I believe in God, and my faith dictates the art or act of forgiveness to me. And like you said earlier, it's easier said than done, because there are some things that happen to me that I sometimes have to go back and say, Lord, please help me forgive the things that I cannot change, or and to get through this process. So I really rely on my religion and my faith in God to get through this whole art of forgiveness.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Are you hard on yourself? Is it easy for you to forgive yourself when you fall short of your own expectations?
Actually, it's easier. I'm not as hard on myself as I used to be.
Okay.
And I think that came with age. Yeah. I would say when I was in my 40s, I was a lot harder on myself. And that had a lot to do with the crowd that I was running with and the circles that I was in. And I don't think even at that point in my life I had really built my faith. I think I found at that point when to answer that question honestly. So, very good question for me. Thank you. Thank you. I like that. What would be harder for you to forgive? Someone who messed with your friendship or someone who messed with your money?
Definitely friendship.
Yeah.
Money is not that. I mean, you could always make money. Money can be replaced in a matter of moments, minutes, weeks, months, days, years. But friendship and having a trust with a person, and that is harder to repair than money, in my opinion.
Yeah. I'm just going to say whatever Jasmine says, apparently.
Well,
What she said.
Ladies and gentlemen, hold that thought. We will be right back. Thank you.
Operator 901, where's the emergency?
127 Brymere.
Okay, what's going on there?
I'd like to order a pizza for delivery.
Ma'am, you've reached 911. This is an emergency line.
Large with half pepperoni, half mushrooms.
You know you've called 911. This is an emergency
Do you
line.
know how long it'll be?
Okay, ma'am, is everything okay over there? Do you have an emergency or not?
Yes.
And you're unable to talk because...
Right.
Is there someone in the room with you? Just say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay, it looks like I have an officer about a mile from your location. Are there any weapons in your house?
No.
Can you stay on the phone with me?
No. See you soon. Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. Please, ladies and gentlemen who are watching and in our studio audience, I'm just going to take a quick moment to give these young ladies a round of applause.
Oh,
because,
thank you.
They are, this conversation, again, came up off camera. So to bring it on camera, it's even more exciting. So I'm really happy to have you here. So
We're happier to be here.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
it's
you
a good
very much.
time.
Thank you. On our topic of forgiveness, under what circumstances could you forgive an act of disloyalty from a friend?
All circumstances. I mean, we said this a few times, and I think that maybe it's a bit of a broken record, but it's forgiveness, and forgiveness doesn't have time, space. It doesn't have it doesn't choose circumstances. It's really just the act of forgiveness. And so disloyalty to a friend, and Jasmine said this in the other segment, it really just gives you information. It provides you with information about that person and about you too. What attracted you to this person, and why did this person hurt you, and what can you do differently in your relationships as well, because it is a self-reflecting process too. Forgiveness is. So I think it's really just a universal theme that forgiveness is really important for you. It's a personal act of growth.
I have to really be honest with you. Eventually I will forgive my friends, but the relationships that I built with people who I call my friends, I am really hard on them. I am really, and for a friend to commit some act of disloyalty to me, that is very hurtful to me. And I've been in situations like that. And eventually I have forgiven, whether it be 2 days or 10 years.
Right.
I'll get to it. But it is really, really, really hard for me to get to a place where I can forgive a friend who has really committed some form of disloyalty to me.
But what does it mean for you to forgive them? Is it something that you say? Is it something that you do? But what is the act of forgiveness?
The act of forgiveness for me would be time. I would need time, and I would have to talk with them. I like closure, so I would have to speak to them. And if I encounter some type of resistance, where I feel like they're not going to be communicative and or responsive or whatever, I will shut down, and that 2 days could go into the 10 years of me trying to forgive them, because I don't think it's a two-way street at that point.
Right.
Right.
Because like what you were saying made me think about, so what happens if you have the same friend that does things to you repeatedly and you're constantly forgiving them? What is that act of forgiveness? And so I think there has to be some sort of action, right? Because people seem to apologize fairly easy nowadays. I'm sorry. Keep your sorries, right? So I'm not concerned with the fact that you have the ability to say that you are sorry, but what are you going to do differently next time? How are you going to treat me any differently?
Right.
But people are so quick to say, I'm sorry, and I think that
I'll try to do better.
Right, and so culturally, I think we've accepted that. So like when someone does something in the media that they're not supposed to do, and then people find out about it, they, have a press conference, and that person comes before the world and says, I am really sorry for my actions. I should not have done it. Like, that means nothing to me.
I agree with you, and my favorite line is, sorry, didn't do it.
Sorry, didn't do it.
Sorry, didn't do it.
Keep your sorries in a sack.
You did it.
But at the same time, too, though, you want a little bit of compassion, right? Because I'm not necessarily the perfect person, and I've done some really messed up things in my life to other people, knowingly and unknowingly, right? And in the process of growth, of course, you're going to be a better person. But because I want other people to forgive me for transgressions in the past, but also future transgressions, because I'm not going to be perfect, I want to be able to extend that compassion to someone else.
Right. Okay. Well, ladies, thank you for giving me your time. We run out of time.
Oh, no.
And taking the time to come on set and talk to us about the art of forgiveness. I really do appreciate it. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we will be joined by our panel to talk about a few other issues that I'm pretty sure you will know and love. Thank you.
Big dreams and good grades aren't enough to get into college. There are actual steps you need to take. Finding someone who can help is the first and most important. For the next steps, go to knowhowtogo.org.
In 2012, there were 88 homicides in the District of Columbia.
In 2013, 104, including a dozen killed at the Navy Yard.
By mid-June in 2013, just over 30 people had been killed.
In the first half of 2014, roughly 50 homicides were recorded.
This is nearly double last year's rate.
The lives of residents hang in the balance when crime in our community increases.
People across the district are at a higher and higher risk
of becoming victims.
Stop the violence.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Well, the topic on everyone's lips this week seems to be the transformation of Bruce Jenner into what he calls the person he was meant to be, Caitlyn Jenner. So, ladies and gentlemen, on the panel, I'm going to open it right up. How do you feel this story is being portrayed in the media?
Too much. All of it. Too much. I mean, I think with every great story, just the build up to it was great, I guess. Maybe that was a bit too much. And then now all of a sudden, it's everything. I just want the NBA Finals to come on. That's it. I want the games to start. But I guess in the interim, they need some space fillers. And so it's Caitlyn, as if the Kardashians weren't enough.
Well, I've been struggling with all of this being in the media and all the hype that's surrounding it. And I had to really think about some of the comments that people were making. Some people were saying that, they're making Bruce Jenner or Caitlyn Jenner the poster child. And when I think about it, are there any other athletes or persons that have been recognized as an athlete the way Bruce Jenner was? Have they, are there any transgendered athletes that I know of, that we know of?
The closest is, the guy with the tattoos. Rodman, right. Right.
Oh.
Dennis Rodman was he was the closest.
He just cross-dressed every now and then.
Right. I mean, that's the closest. And he got a lot of attention for it, but.
And Marv Albert got caught wearing panties, but
I think a lot
that
of people
didn't matter.
But no.
Isn't there some
But that's
Judges,
Chinese
lawyers.
athlete or something? Because I seem to, and I may be making this up, but I seem to remember somebody on one of the Chinese Olympic teams or something who was transgender and started out one way and ended up another.
Right. I remember.
There
I think
is
it
a
was
woman who plays
volleyball.
tennis who's transgender.
Really?
I don't know her name, but she's
Billie Jean King?
That's hilarious.
That's terrible. That's
I don't
terrible.
know.
I don't know, but
But he's probably
I don't
currently
know
the
her
most
name, but I do know
celebrated
there is a-
athlete that we know that is coming out.
but that person.
I don't think it has any. I really don't think it's about the being an athlete. I think it's the fact that it was very public. This is the first time that we've had someone go through the transition that we actually saw them go through, like step by step, and they were so open about it. Bruce was on a show that is extremely. It's one of the biggest shows on TV, and we felt like we know Bruce. We felt like we know their characters, and so to see him turn to her and now be Caitlyn and come out in such a big way, a lot of people didn't even know that article was coming out or that the Vanity Fair was coming out. I think that's what's shocking is it's like someone that we know. Bruce hasn't been in the Olympics for years and hasn't been an athlete for years. Although I think it's a big thing, yes, that he was the greatest athlete of his time. He was known as the greatest athlete, and that's great. But I think it's also the fact that this is not someone who just like kind of went away and wasn't in the public eye for a while.
He was always there.
Always there, and has been an A-list celebrity for the last 10 years. You know.
Riley, I have to disagree with you to a point, only because I don't think, and I appreciate the fact that you mentioned Jenner being a decathlete. I mean, and that was, I think I've got a few years on everybody on this panel, with the exception of you, because I heard you say how old you're going to be on your birthday. But I remember watching the Olympics, and it's Bruce Jenner. I mean, he was decathlete. I
On
mean,
the
this
Wheaties
was
box,
like,
The
like
Wheaties box,
the world's
yeah.
greatest athlete.
Yeah.
And I think that definitely is a component to everything we're seeing. I also agree with you in that, yeah, he never went out of the public eye.
Yeah.
And, some of it's just the sensationalism. But I without question, I think that a good part of the whole reaction we're seeing has a lot to do with who this happens to be. I mean, it'd be like if LeBron James in a few years decides, this isn't who I really am, and I want the world to know now, and I'm actually going to take these physical steps to do this.
I guess I agree with you. Well, because I was thinking before, if it was somebody else, would it really matter? And I guess it's the status of who he is. Because I'm thinking if it was just a regular, average person that got exposure on television and they decided, hey, I want to be, it's really no big deal. And then if you play race into the factor, I think that would really downplay the fact of who they are and what they're trying to do. I think that a lot of those components come together. It's Bruce Jenner. It's who's around. I mean, I have my own theories later I'll tell you about why I think he did it.
Why you
Really?
That's probably good TV.
That I want to hear.
Why you think Bruce Jenner did it?
Well, you
This
mean
is my
above and
personal
beyond
opinion,
simply, this is who he
semi-sarcastic,
really
but
was.
also
please share.
they're partial facts. Okay, you live in a house with all these women. You worked all these years and you've made all this money to build this empire. Yet you live with these women who, I'm not going to challenge their skill sets because they could possibly be talented somehow. However, what's their major talent? We are after 11, right?
Being infamous.
We're after 11, right?
Well, actually, we had a show where we pretty much.
We already talked about this, and you know how I feel about the Kardashians.
We talked about,
first of all,
the Kardashians. They are a brand.
They are a brand.
They
and
are
if
a
they
brand.
weren't, why are we still talking about
Right.
them?
They are
That's
a
true.
brand.
That's true. But the thing is, if you look at Bruce, and this is my sarcastic outcome of this, he watches he has to go to work, he has to make the money, he has to build the house, but these women do nothing. I'm being nice. They do nothing.
That's not true.
But they get all this money. Well, it's not
No.
true. They do a lot. They do a whole lot.
And so,
and by what they do, the results, hell, if I was him, I'd probably do the same thing. I'm a man.
oh no!
I'm getting no money, no action, no love, but here's my little daughter and Kim, and now all of a sudden these girls are
He could be more profitable
icons.
as a
So
woman.
why don't I?
So
Right.
look, he's
And
going
look
to
at- and
become
it's
a
working.
female Kardashian too.
So if
right.
he lays back and gets it done, then he can get money too. He doesn't have to work.
For profitability
Okay.
purposes.
I don't
You know I'm about to stop y'all right now.
Okay, go ahead. I don't. No, I.
First of all, let me just say this. I have been living my life as a woman for the last 10 years. You don't go through this. You don't go through what we go through. You don't go through the ridicule. You don't go through the way you feel inside growing up. And this is someone who's, I made my transformation at 24. This is someone who waited till 65. Could you imagine how long and how hurtful that must have been? So I absolutely disagree. I don't think that it would be, yes, he is in a family that is known for being, the publicity and the reality show and all that stuff. I think that's one of the things. I think that's one of the reasons that it's done so publicly. But I don't think that that's the reason for doing it at all. I think you don't do this unless you're absolutely sure, and if you absolutely feel that you were born in the wrong body. And when you listen to her talk about the way that she always felt and saying how freeing she feels now, you definitely can tell that it is not something that was done just for publicity or that was done to make more money or to create a buzz. Doing it publicly might have been to create a buzz, but not doing it, period. Absolutely not.
Well, I have to agree with you only in that I met someone in let's say the late 90s who used to work with me at another job where I worked, and I watched him go through the transformation. And when he came to me, when I found out that he was going through the transformation, I was producing a fashion show, and he told me he wanted to be in a fashion show, but he wanted to be in a fashion show as a woman. And I thought, really? And so he had to share that with me. And now he has made the transition. And so I know that it wasn't something that he woke up and felt. It had to be
There's
something.
A lot of soul searching.
It was something deep within that made him do that. And again, like you said, for Bruce, at 60-something years old, to do this, I take my hat off to him because there is some sense of bravery in there somewhere because I can't understand it, but there's definitely something that's going on.
She is not the first person to be transgender, obviously.
Obviously,
okay. And I'm not the first either. But she's not the first. She's not the best, but it could possibly be the biggest. And having that platform is fantastic because if you guys remember, and I said this yesterday on another show, if you remember. Bruce used to do a lot of motivational speaking.
Right.
And I mean, like sell out these seminars and do these big motivational speaking. Could you imagine how powerful and how the impact that she could have now on all these people if she continues to do public speaking and motivational speaking to educate people on what it is. So, yes, not the first person. This isn't the first time we've heard of somebody transitioning. It's not the first time. It won't be the last time. But it's the biggest, and it's a great thing because it's got people talking. One, we're no longer just a dirty little secret, and it's in the forefront. And there's a lot of people that now hold a position of power to do some amazing things to change people's perception in this world about what someone who is transgender is. A lot of people, because they watched the show and they knew who Bruce was, they can now feel like they know someone who's transgender. And that softens people's hearts when they feel like they can relate to someone or when they feel like they know someone that's gone through it. And it just basically gets people talking. It gets people talking about it, but it also hopefully will bring awareness and a lot more acceptance.
Well, all right, that cuts two ways though, because one of the things that has kind of troubled me is some of the hateful comments that have been made, and there has been a lot of hate spewed at this new person.
And there will be.
Now, I remember when I first became aware of the procedure, it was a show called Medical Center with Chad Everett. Used to come on CBS years ago.
I remember
and,
that.
Robert Reed, who played Mr. Brady on the Brady Bunch, appeared on this show, and he was getting the procedure, and this was like 1974, 75 or something like that. Might even have been a little bit earlier than that. And I remember I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh my God, Mr. Brady's turned into a woman,
Did he did the procedure?
Well, no, on the show he did.
Oh.
Because I was going to say, I missed that too.
Yeah. But my point is that it's been around for a long time, but certainly he is Caitlyn Jenner is the most prominent person that we've seen to get it, and especially getting it at this age, you know. I mean, but again, it's troubled me, the hate, you know, because, you know, this is 2015, you know, I mean, and every time you turn around, there's something new. Oh, black president, oh, well, now he's wrong with everything he does. Oh, gay marriage, oh, no, we can't have that, you know. I mean, the country of Ireland has just recently voted,
exactly,
you know, to approve this, and yet you've still got these people who are stuck in the dark ages. Now, regardless of whatever, you know, however you feel about it personally, and, you know, at my age, you know, I wrestle with a lot of stuff, but I also am not going to be one of these people who's on the wrong side of history with any of this. And, you know, I mean, whether or not gays can get married in every, you know, state of the union, that's not going to make my kids gay, you know. I mean, and if they were, hey, I would still love them because they're my kids, you know. I mean, and, you know, but I begin to understand how, you know, because I used to think, you know, it was racial prejudice, and that was like, oh, how can people feel like this? You know, we're all the same inside. It's just a matter of color, you know. But so my question, Riley, you know, particularly given your situation, how do you feel about the venom that has been spewed?
Well, you know what the hatred on social media is nothing in compared to all the girls that came before that have been killed. I've had friends who have been killed, people, hate crimes, just so that have literally fought in the streets, just so I could sit here, you know, and that I can walk down the street and not be bothered. Now, mind you, I am not 6'4" and very manly and all that stuff, but those girls are still living their truth that are. And those girls went through a lot and are still going through a lot. And I think the great thing about Caitlyn's situation is it will now bring awareness to all those nameless people that have died that we don't ever hear about on the news, or that, you know, there's tons and tons of girls that are killed, and not just people that are killed, but people that commit suicide also. And I've been there before. I've been on the brink of suicide because I didn't feel like anybody understood me, or that anybody knew what I was going through. I had no one to identify with. I didn't have a Laverne Cox, Janet Mock, or Riley Knoxx, or a Bruce Jenner, Caitlyn Jenner to look up to. So I think it's a wonderful time to see this happen, because I didn't think that I would see it in my lifetime. I wasn't sure that I would see it in my lifetime, because I've been this way for my entire life, but I've been living as a girl for 10 years. So I wasn't sure that I would see a time when it would be so in the forefront. And it makes me, I get very emotional when I think about it.
Well, I want to say this, Riley. I thank you for enlightening me on this, because I think about it in a, you know, most things that you don't really fully understand, I make light of it. So I don't get angry, you know, I kind of make light of it until I understand. Yeah. I now, when you said the things you said, I had a friend who I used to play cards with, and he made the transition. And as a friend, it was nothing to me. I mean, I've seen lots of things, and I'm kind of open to a lot of things. So I was a friend, you know, from people who have AIDS and dying, whatever. I've been compassionate and am compassionate about certain things and certain. So when I look at Bruce, you know, I think about Paris is Burning, you know, and I always, Lady Shebley, did I say it right?
Lady Shebley.
I did. That was really big to me. And when I was young, I didn't understand any of it. But by the time I watched it and how the people died, and to see back then at that young age, and that time when we weren't really showing things, one of the girls committed suicide or what, it was really sad and touching. So you're right. It is a very touching and emotional thing. And for Bruce, I hope that he's using it. For Caitlyn, I hope she's using this as a platform to help people, as opposed to expose herself and become a spokesmodel or whatever it is, a platform for those people who are really looking and searching.
Yeah.
You know,
and
so
she
it could be a good idea.
On Diane Sawyer that she said that what I'm doing here, because Diane said, you know, there are people who think that you might have done this for publicity, and she said, oh, come on. Of all the things that I could do, like really like this, she said, what I'm going to do here is going to do some good. We're going to, you can mark my words, it's going to do some good. So I look forward to seeing what's going to happen, or what she's going to do with this new platform that she's kind of been, it's kind of been pushed on her really in the last few days. But I think that she, just hearing her talk on Diane Sawyer, I think that she is welcoming it.
Well, yeah, I have to agree. I think she has prepared for this day, and no matter what punches, no matter what comes her way, she is prepared. And it appears that she has a good foundation of family around her, and so that support system alone can help someone stay strong through what Caitlin is going through.
Yeah, there's nothing more amazing than living every day in your truth. And no matter who you are or what you're going through, but the feeling you get that you get to live your life on your own terms and be who you want to be, it is absolutely the single greatest thing it doesn't matter what I do, no matter what. If I win a Nobel Peace Prize, it is still the single greatest thing I've ever done in my life. This will be. Because when I decided to live my life on my own terms, and when I decided to become the person that I always felt that I was supposed to be, everything else opened up. And it didn't matter what anybody thought about it. I did it for me, and it wasn't for anybody at all. And the freedom that I feel every single day when I wake up and when I go to bed at night.
It's unbelievable.
It's irreplaceable.
And it's got to be a good feeling, because I think back to my friend when he first came in, and we're a bunch of guys and we play cards, and then we see somebody who we think we recognize coming in, and the transformation isn't big. It's just little things from shoes to hair to things like that, but still very masculine, still hair. And we're like talking, but once we talked, and it had to be scary for him to walk the streets, to get out of the car, to walk to wherever we were. It had to be frightening, and to find that group, I could just actually, now that we talk about it, feel the relief from him, just to have at least a group of people that he felt safe around, to be who he really was. But it didn't end there, because eventually he still has to step out. I mean, yeah, this is a nice, this little net group is great for me now, but it has to be rough to have to step out like that, to take that chance and then really go out to people that don't accept, that don't understand, and probably don't want to. They probably don't even want to try to understand.
And I think that's for me where I have a small issue with the Caitlyn Jenner situation. And with everyone saying, oh, she's so brave and she's so bold. I kind of think back to similar to what Ernest said. I think her situation is a lot different than other people because A, she's got so much money that she doesn't have to deal with the issue of looking part man, part woman, and going out into the world and people wondering or whispering or getting violent. And the environment that Caitlyn is going to be in is not the environment that you were raised in or that you grew up in. It's around a whole bunch of rich people with a whole bunch of money walking the streets of what, Beverly Hills?
Calabasas.
Yeah, Calabasas. There is
and we know about Calabasas.
There's nothing, for me, bold about that.
Right.
And the way that Caitlyn did it, there were press releases, there was going to be a grand tour, it was going to be chronicled for Bravo, not for free. It wasn't going to be free. Caitlyn was going to get paid. Bruce was going to get paid, the family was going to get paid. So I don't necessarily agree that it was just, I'm doing this because I was trapped in this body for all this time. I think there was an element of, this is an opportune time to do it. You've got Michael Sam, who just came out as a gay athlete, and he piggybacked off of that. You've got the Orange is the New Black transgender who came out, and it's just a lot of piggyback, and I definitely think that there was an opportunity for cash. And we all know that family is always looking for a cash opportunity. Not to say that I don't understand that he felt that he was a woman trapped in a man's body. Probably. But as a decathlete, did you feel that way then when you were getting some medals? Did you feel like you were a woman running this race? Or were you trained?
Yeah, she said she did.
Yeah, that's interesting.
She said that it was the hardest thing for her. She said the reason that she became that athlete is because struggling with it, wanted to become almost the exact opposite of what she felt like so she basically was running away from it. I want to be the strongest, I want to be the toughest, I want to be the hardest, and then just got tired of it. Like, I'm just tired of running my entire life. And she said that every time when she got married, all of those things.
Each time?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I understand it in a lot of different situations, and I think.
But she is attracted to women, though, so she said she's not attracted to men. So but in the 80s, she did. Well, she said she might be, but in the 80s, she did start hormone therapy for 5 years. Was on it for 5 years before she married Kris Jenner.
So she's going to continue to see women.
Well, she said she doesn't know. She said the thing is this is not about sex, and it really isn't about sex. It's not about she said, I didn't do this for a sexual reason. This is not about that. I don't know how I'm going to feel once I'm in my new body, in my new place, but for right now, I am attracted to women, but I'm not. This is not what this is about. She said, if I had to make a list of 10 reasons to do this, number 1 being the most important, 10 would be sex.
Wow. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a commercial break, and we'll be right back. Thank you for joining us.
Ready or not, here I come.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
And I personally, it's always best if those two line up, but so frequently, especially with prominent people or politicians or people who got to worry about their Q rating or whatever, they can't. There has to be a public response.
Right.
So
I just don't get the praise. I mean, I'm happy that he's living his life, that if that's what he wants to do, but praising someone who has nothing to lose for doing what they want to do.
Yeah, but I think the thing is now coming forward, this will give someone else the courage to come forward. Someone who doesn't have a lot of money, someone who it will make it okay for those people that are up in their room scared.
That's what I'm saying, because that could be a setup.
It's a setup. It's a false sense of what can really happen for them.
Because it's great for him, but
that's true.
say a
but
minority,
it's
say
still,
me,
but
for
it's not
example, if I
about
decide to do it, I walk the street, I can get beaten, killed because people don't understand.
It's about the courage itself.
You guys will kill me because I want to end
There's
the show
no
with you all
courage.
giving your life. I want to end the show with you all telling me how, giving me a statement or something like you're doing right now. And Tony hasn't brought us back in.
He's still shooting though. He's still taping.
Oh, he did.
I knew he was.
Oh my God! I was like this. I was like this. You're killing me. I was like this. I see the show closing right here.
He didn't say a word. He didn't stop us. He didn't say, "Guys, hold on."
I don't see there is any courage. I mean, I just don't see the courage involved. I mean, he has.
I will tell you this:
he has nothing to lose.
If when I was 12 years old, or when I was 16 years old, there was someone on TV that I saw that was the same way that I was, because there was no one. And I didn't even know the correct word for it. I knew what my parents called it, which was not the correct word. If I had seen that, if I could see a Bruce Jenner on TV, if I could see a Laverne Cox on there, if I could see a Riley Knox on TV, that would have, and I've had so many people come up to me and so many young kids come up to me and say, thank you so much for what you do. Thank you so much for letting me know that it can be done. You know, I don't think it would have mattered to me how much money that person had. I don't think it would have mattered to me how much money that person was getting, or it wouldn't have mattered to me what circumstances it would just been like, this person's like me. This person,
but they're not.
Okay, right.
But I'm saying their internal struggle, but no matter how much money you have, the internal struggle is the same. The internal struggle would have made it would not, maybe it wouldn't have made me come out at 12 years old and say that, but it would have made me feel a lot less like I was less than.
You know, the one thing that I'm kind of not, he says it didn't have anything to do with sex. I don't buy that, only because everything has to do with sex.
Yeah, but people make it about sex. It's not, you know,
not solely about sex.
Not solely.
Not solely about sex.
I will tell you this.
I think it's a component.
I'll tell you this. Let me just say this. I pull maybe 100 times more men than I, as a female, the way that I look right now, than I did living my life as a gay male. But that would have never, ever have been the reason for me to make this transformation. It was not about, I didn't even think about it. It never occurred to me. It never occurred to me, you know, anything about sex when I was making this transformation. It was about myself.
Yeah, but you were
it was about me
already
living my
attracted
truth.
to men, though.
Yes, I was, but I'm saying the transformation had nothing to do with, I didn't think like, oh, well, let me transform into a girl because I can get more men that way.
No, I understand that, and I don't mean to imply that that would be the case.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think that it's a little bit different for you because
I was attracted to men already.
Men where he was,
but I'm still saying that
it's
not for a
to
sexual
women,
reason, though.
and, you know, but yet he saw himself as a. I mean, that just strikes me as kind of unusual. I mean, I've heard more. I mean, I know very few transgender people. There's some stuff I've read, but what I've heard more is, you know, more, you know, like your story, Riley, as opposed to, wait a minute, this guy was.
There are a lot of guys who have even remained married. If their wife was okay with it, remained married. There's someone on Dr. Oz a few weeks ago who transformed and transitioned, and because his wife was in love with the person that was inside the body and not the body itself, she stayed. Now, it was absolutely a struggle for her, but it happens a lot, and it usually happens to people who have been married for years and people who have who are of a certain age, who are over 50 or 60 years old. And when Bruce did the the interview with Diane Sawyer, he did say if Chris had been okay with it, I would have stayed with Chris because I love Chris.
Well, here's my concern about the whole thing. We're talking about any and everybody, and I hope that Bruce and I can tell that you and most people that step out and want to be pioneers or spokesmen or whatever lead the people correctly. Now, I'm sure when there's some people who decide, hey, you know what, I've had this feeling. I want to do like Bruce. I want to do like Riley. I want to do like whoever else that I admire and become this. But there's also another avenue. You're talented. You're good looking. Everybody, what about these people that don't have that talent, that don't have those looks, that decide to make this transformation? Is somebody going to point them in the direction that's going to put them in a safe haven?
I talk to those girls all the time.
Okay, well, very
I talk
good,
to those
very
girls
good,
that
very
are, that
good.
are 6'10".
Because
and
everybody's
that
not
are very
talented now. Everybody's
and
not
that
talented.
just
Everybody's
wanna
not Bruce
be
Jenner.
able to-
you know?
I have a girl that I mentored who was in high school, and she is very, very tall, and she wanted to quit high school because of the ridicule and because of the people throwing stuff. People would throw things at her as she would walk around school. She wanted to quit school because of it. And so, yeah, I do talk to those girls. She's now in college, and she's now doing very well and absolutely beautiful. But, you know, the thing is it's just about living your truth. It's just about living your authentic self, the person that you felt that you should be, and your life on your own terms. Whether people understand it or whether people don't understand it, it's not about that. It's about you yourself and the decision you make for yourself.
Yeah, and there are going to be some people who never understand.
Never.
Oh,
like my grandmother will never
That's with
understand.
anything,
it. That's okay.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and it's almost tough, just playing devil's advocate, to see it from both sides, for people to expect them to have to accept it. Because I kind of think about the civil rights era, where, you know, you had black kids trying to go to white schools, and it was just unfair, and they had things thrown at them, and it was just terrible. And it was about something that they didn't even choose to be. They didn't choose to be black. So it's almost like you all choose to live a different lifestyle, and we would hope that people were open-minded enough to accept it. But I feel like when it's a choice, some people are just going to be ignorant and not accept it. But to kind of force the world or expect the world to accept something that's not the norm, something that's definitely alternative, is kind of tough too.
I don't really care about people accepting it.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I don't mean to step on you, but because you just mentioned something. I remember years ago on the old Art Linkletter show, he used to do this segment with kids.
You're pulling shows out.
I got that. I'm an old fella, Alvin, what can I tell you? No, but you know, but young black kid, and anyway, basically it came out that, you know, he was like, it seemed as if he felt that things would have been better for him if he was a little white boy as opposed to being black. And so now I'm sitting here thinking, based on what you said, how many blacks, if they had the choice to be white, wouldn't get like, hey, I'm gonna get like the Caucasian change. I'm gonna be a white dude.
I think they would have been lined up.
I joke about you. We're laughing about that, but there was one time I was at the airport, angry at the airport because I wasn't being treated fairly at the counter. And I looked at my friend and said, you know, I just want to be white for 15 minutes and see how this situation would change. I said that.
It would have changed.
I said that. I said I would just like to see how that feels for 15 minutes. I have a feeling that my situation would have changed. But I know that's not about Caitlyn Jenner. But I felt that. How would that be?
For me, going back to what you said, I don't, you know, the acceptance is one thing. For me, what's important is the respect. You know, like asking people to respect. I have cut family members off who wouldn't even call me by the correct name because it's disrespectful.
The mind game, yeah.
You don't have to like that I transitioned,
right?
But you will respect me, and you know, anybody who couldn't respect the fact that this is the name that I have chosen, this is the name that I want to be called, you will not call me by that old name again, or else we won't speak. Yeah, well, so I care about the respect. Yeah, I care about absolutely. And so I care about the respect more than I do the acceptance. And hopefully the acceptance comes also, but the respect is the biggest thing for me.
Well, it's complex though, you know. I mean, and you know, in the same way, because what's going to have to happen, and you know, all right. When my son was in kindergarten, and this was the first time that I had ever had to deal with, you know, there were a couple of kids in his class. Somebody had two mommies, somebody had two daddies. And I'm thinking, you know, because in my day, oh, that kid would have been laughed out of school. Oh, you got 2 mommies, you got 2 daddies. Are you kidding me? You know? But you know, my kids are growing up to be a lot more. And that's the other thing. Some of the greatest jokes that I had, I can't tell anymore because they're just not socially acceptable. I had some wonderful gay jokes that are just, and if you couldn't make fun of nobody, you could always make fun of some gay people. You know, and that was, you know. But the world my kids are growing up in is different. And you know, they are going to be a lot more accepting, and the same way that you know, they're going to have to be some folks who are just dead and buried before we can move beyond some of where we are. And I think that some of this venom that's being spewed at Caitlyn Jenner absolutely shows that, you know, and some of your family members, the way they've reacted, and some people who will just never get it and never accept it. Like I said, I'm not going to be on the wrong side of history.
Well, unless I've missed it, I have not seen or heard anything from our religious leaders about Caitlyn's transformation.
They have too many other things.
I haven't.
It's so at the bottom of the.
I was going to say, I haven't heard, and you know.
Until you go to church on Sunday.
Until I go to church. You know,
it's
but
not good for business.
I haven't, and is that because of the person who went through the transition? Because it's Caitlyn Jenner?
I think it's money. I mean, how many of your people in your congregation might be
very good?
Gay
You're absolutely correct.
Transgender or something,
or supportive of.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they still speak on it. It's weird because when you think back, it's more than 200 years removed with us being in this country, and just 50, 60 years outside of slavery, and black folks are still struggling for the same respect. So I tell you this, the transgender community is new compared to where we are as black people. So it'll probably be another 50 years, unfortunately.
Sure I'd ever see it in my lifetime.
Yeah, it'd be another 50 years at least before you all get the respect that you deserve. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but I think that when you have people like Caitlyn Jenner, I don't even know if I would have wanted that to be. I would have probably preferred the Laverne Cox to take more of a stand and do a little bit more, because the intention, I don't think is there. I don't think it's the right intention for the movement, especially with all the pomp and circumstance surrounded behind it.
I think that's yet to be determined. We'll see what happens with going forward.
I think it happened already.
But I'm saying like what she does to make a
difference. I mean, moving
now that you
up
have
to
the
it.
voice, what do you have to say? You know?
But see,
I agree.
You're right. All that's new, but what isn't new is the fact that the 2 areas where people, especially in this country, are the most messed up are attitudes surrounding race and attitudes surrounding sex and sexual identity. Everybody's so concerned about what color you are or who you're sleeping with. You know? We just need to move beyond all that. And I don't care what it is. It's like, cause some, you know, it's like I'd see a sister with a white dude, and I'm like, put that white dude there, you know. It's like, and I know something, you know, but whatever it is, you know. I mean, why are we so concerned with who somebody's sleeping with and what color somebody is? Does that really make a difference in terms of somebody's heart, or in terms of their intelligence, or what? I mean, you know, there've been times when I've been down or I've been low, and you know, help comes from the most unexpected quarters, and that challenges your point of view. You know, you're like, wait a minute, you know, this person treated me with respect, with dignity, like a human being. And that's not somebody who I would have expected to have behaved like this. And maybe somebody in your own family dogs you out, you know? I mean, it's just, it's unbelievable to me.
But it's the land of media. It's capitalism. That doesn't sell. It doesn't sell. It doesn't make money. That's not what this country was built on. So we're never going to get to the point where it's all about just your heart.
And what's so unfortunate is living in the United States, you know, we have so many things to worry about. There's so many things to be concerned about, greater than sexuality, greater than same-sex marriage. I mean, we're struggling within our own country to just be safe. We don't know who's who anymore, you know. So I focus my attention on greater things, you know, survival skills. I celebrate what you want to do as long as it doesn't offend me, or, you know, I think people should just be who they are. The church, they should really let up, not so much the church, but the church members, especially the ones that talk about the gay marriages. If you're happily married, that's not going to hinder you from going to heaven if somebody else gets married. I just don't understand why people put so much time. If you're not gay, if you're not transgender, it has nothing to do with you making it forward or moving forward to your portion in life or your avenue in life, because of what somebody else is doing. I think people should spend more time focusing on themselves and where they need to be and where we want to be, as opposed to worrying about the neighbors or the person down the street.
You know, I agree with you, but I was challenged recently because I wasn't always in favor of gay marriage. You know, in fact, what I was in favor of was civil unions. It was like, well, let's not call it a marriage. Let's confer all the rights and privileges, but let's just not call it a marriage. And then my home state of New Jersey messed me up because there was a gay couple, and one of them was involved in a critical accident, was hospitalized in intensive care. You know, the other partner shows up at the hospital and they were denied the right to see him. Yeah, and you know, the hospital's like, well, wait a minute, civil union, we don't know what that is. Bottom line is nobody doesn't know what a marriage is. I'm like, oh yeah, now y'all messed up. Now I got to take over gay marriage because you can't infringe on somebody's rights.
Right.
You know, I mean, you can't do that. So nobody doesn't know what a marriage is.
Right.
But the thing, people take on situations that have nothing to do with them moving forward in life.
Well, I think
because
the tricky part with that is people who have children.
Okay, I agree.
People who have
I
children,
agree with
that's
that.
the trickiest part. I have a girlfriend whose 4-year-old is in a gymnastics class with a transgender 4-year-old. And
Wait,
so
transgender 4-year-old?
it's a transgender 4-year-old. So the 4-year-old boy shows up in a tutu and tights and just dressed like the girls. And so it confuses all the other children in the class. And so the parents complained to the school. And they said they didn't have a dress code in place for boys and for girls because they didn't think about it in advance. And so they felt that they couldn't tell the transgender boy's parents to have him dress like a boy. But it confused like heck all the kids in the class. So my girlfriend was upset because now she has to have a conversation with her 4-year-old
She maybe didn't want to have
that she
at this
did not
point.
want to have at 4.
Well, now is the time, ladies and gentlemen. And speaking of time, we're going to have to bring our show to a close for this evening. And this has been a wonderful episode. Thank you, Ulysses. Thank you, Riley. Thank you, Shaina. Thank you, Ernest. This has been really great. And I'm going to close the show by wishing Caitlyn Jenner well, as I will anyone else in any particular situation. We thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen, and we look forward to you joining us again when next we speak. Good night. And bold.
And talented.
And talented.
Talented, you're very talented.
And
that's real.
And hot.
And hot now.
Oh, you are hot.
No,
you are.
You are hot.
HOTTT.
Just, you know, in the 2 years that I've known you, nearly 2 years, just the level of respect that you have for yourself, it's just so radiant to me. You have so much respect for yourself, and for that, girl, you know.
And you don't do it for the money.
You don't.
Yes, I do.
No, you don't. You would still do it.
No, you.
Oh, no,
you
no,
would
no.
Still do it.
you would be very.
But I mean, my job is.
Yeah, we all have to work and make money, but you
entertain
can
people,
still do
so
it.
my look is 80% of my job.
Let me ask you something. What has it been like in some situations? I'm sure there's some people you meet who aren't aware that you're transgender. What's it been like in those cases where somebody's attitude has changed once they found out about your situation?
That usually happens with dating. That happens more with dating. People are usually really nice to me, like walking down the street or wherever. I don't know if it's sometimes what I do or just me, period. I don't know what it is.
Because you're pretty.
But I have it easier than those girls
Yeah.
who are very masculine,
Pretty
or those
people
girls
can
that
treat
are
it well.
really tall, those girls that are what they call clockable.
Right.
I'm blessed in that. Yeah, this is what it's called. I'm blessed in that way, but I don't take that for granted. I know that my struggle doesn't mean that it's been easy. It's not always been easy, and I didn't always look like this. But you know, my struggle has been with my family. My struggle has been with guys that I date. But nobody was ever in my way more than me. So I just got out of my own way.
Let me ask you this. How would you feel if someone compared what you just said to like black people or lighter, fairer skin who could pass? Because that kind of makes me think like the ones who could pass had it a lot easier.
They did. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing. It's pretty much the same thing. I was saying on the news yesterday, well, actually a month ago, I was like, we walk amongst you. We've always been here. We've always been here. The thing is, you know, it's just that we're just being talked about. This has been 10 years, and for me anyway. But there are girls who, you know, we were watching that video before. I stand on the shoulders of giants, absolutely. There are girls who don't look like me or didn't look like me that literally fought in the streets just so I could walk down the street now and not be bothered. You know, I don't ever care if people know or they don't know. It's none of their business if I'm not sleeping with them. I think when I first started out, maybe 10 years ago, I used to walk down the street and think, like, people look at me, they'd stare, and like, do they know? I also sometimes don't know if people are saying, because sometimes people will say, you're really pretty. And I'm like, are you saying I'm pretty? Or are you saying that I'm pretty for a person who used to be a man?
Wow.
So I never know what, like, I can always tell, like, when someone comes to me, like, you look, like, and they'll sometimes, I've had people, like, whisper to me, you look really good. You look good. You look good. They always say that. A lot of black women say that to me.